somebody asked if I would do transition pictures for a guy called Hale Boggs. There's a photo of him. He was a Democratic politician in the US House of Representatives and also House Majority Leader at one point, I believe. He died at the age of 58 in 1972 of unknown causes because he was on a flight to Alaska. It's some kind of fundraising trip for a politician friend of his, and the plane simply vanished. They searched for it for 39 days and no trace was ever found of fuselage or bodies or anything. And this is still a mystery. Now, that said, he was re-elected after his death. And then they had a special election after that to replace him. And somebody said, why don't you do transition pictures for Hale Boggs and see if they yield any clues? So I did. There he is. And it's really, really fascinating, this, because when I found him, pretty unsurprisingly, he was floating through the air. He was on a plane, after all, but he was floating through the air, but a bit like Tinkerbell. He was over here, and then he was over there, and he was just flitting around. There was land below. I depicted it as an island. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it was certainly land that he was flitting and flying and fluttering over. And he was totally happy. There was no sign of anything bad being about to happen. However, I noticed that there was a wall of darkness over here. It didn't seem like a storm, it just seemed like a straight difference between A here and B there, with a wall between the two. Ocean, not ocean. He knew it. It was there, but he was like, it'll be fine. And he carried on flitting around like Tinkerbell. But then suddenly, he realized that the darkness was upon him. 1 minute it was all light and everything was fine. The next, it was dark and it was over. So curious. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know what had happened. It was that quick. And suddenly he was falling and twisting around as he fell. But this is where it gets really intriguing, because normally I see tunnels and things that are symbolic, they're metaphorical, they're not real, and there's a light at the end and so on. In this case, yeah, there was a tunnel, yeah, there was a light, but it wasn't a transitional tunnel and a light. It was more like a real place. Not necessarily a cave or whatever, but it was more like he was in some kind of building or undersea structure, or like a submarine or something, or he was in a building that was hidden away. And he walked along the passageway, not sure where he was at all, and there was a room with a light in it, but not the light. It was more like part of the structure. The only way out of the room he was in was up a little passageway, very, very narrow, that he followed up, and there was the light, a kind of miniature version of it. When he looked up, he was at the bottom of a very, very deep well or tunnel or something that went straight up. And he thought, wow, nobody's going to find me here. And so he went and sat staring into the light. And this must be one of the most frightening scenarios to be in life. Like, you know that death is staring you in the face. It's right there. This is it. It's just a matter of waiting it out. And I waited quite a long time and then kind of gave up because he just sat there staring at the light. So I'm assuming he kind of withered away at the end and then went. But at no point did it feel like he was dead. Just trapped somewhere. Somewhere that people wouldn't think to look or wouldn't find him if they did look. I went into his consciousness briefly to see what he was seeing, and it was shimmery and nondescript, like being in a subaquatic environment. But he wasn't dead. He was just conscious of the fact that he was in this environment and wouldn't be escaping at all. And that, to me, is one of the most terrifying scenarios of all.